I'd like to go ahead and call the Littleton Conservation Commission November 14th, 2023 to order at 7:31. What I'd like to do is to start with approval of minutes, and we have 3 to go through. The first is October 3rd. Does anyone have any changes or corrections for October 3rd, 2023? If we do not, do we have a motion to approve as written?
I'll move to approve the October 23rd, 2023 minutes as written.
Do we have a second? Thank you, Michael. Kyle, can you do roll?
Go ahead.
Yep, so roll call vote. Michael Livingston.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Chase Gerbig.
Sorry, Chase Gerbig, aye.
All right, Sarah Seward.
Sarah Seward, aye.
Kyle Maxfield, aye. Yes.
Okay, what we'd like to do is to go ahead and look at the minutes for October 17th, 2023. Does anyone have any changes or suggestions for those minutes? If not, if I can have a motion to approve.
Yep, I'll move to approve the minutes of October 17th, 2023 as written.
And I'll second.
Thank you, Michael.
So roll call vote. Michael Livingston.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Chase Gerbig.
Chase Gerbig, aye.
Sarah Seward.
Sarah Seward, aye.
Kyle Maxfield, aye. Unanimous.
Okay, and last November 1, 2023, minutes for approval. Are there any omissions or corrections?
Move to approve the minutes of November 1st, 2023 as written.
And I'll second.
Thank
Roll
you.
call vote. Michael Livingston.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Chase Gerbig.
Chase Gerbig, aye.
Sarah Seward.
Sarah Seward, aye.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Fantastic. Thank you for doing that, Kyle. Administrative discussions. We're going to start with the Hager extension, Mass DEP number 204-0916.
I believe
Okay.
Nick Pauling is here to talk about that.
Yours.
Nick Pauling from Goldsmith, Preston Ringwell. As you said, we requested an extension to the order of conditions. Site is still not stable and probably about at the 75% completion. It expires, I believe, the end of November. So we're requesting a 12-month extension on that to allow for the final work to occur inside the buildings and final stabilization to occur next growing season.
Any commissioners have any questions?
And I concur the site is stable, construction stable.
Okay.
So we're just looking, it's just 12 months. I know, but we can go up to 3, but we don't have to do a 3-year extension. Is that?
So if the contractor is still on site this time next year, there's going to be all kinds of problems, never mind the length of the permit itself.
That's fair. I was just more on our end. I was just curious on that, I guess, regardless of when you come into your phone.
All right, so I would make
We're okay.
Yep. If you want to make a motion, Kyle, that would be great.
Sure. I'll make a motion that we extend the order of conditions for Mass DEP number 204-0916 for 12 months.
I'll second that.
Okay, great.
All right. Roll call vote. Michael Livingston. Oh, you're muted.
That was just practice. Michael Livingston, aye.
Chase Gerbig.
Chase Gerbig, aye.
Sarah Seward.
Sarah Seward, aye.
And Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you too.
Thank you. Okay, next is 3 Dutton regarding tree cutting.
Hello.
All right, if you want to just introduce yourself to the group, that would be great.
My name is Charles Dutton Jr. From 1 Dutton Road. I'm here to, I guess, represent my father's property at 3 Dutton Road.
Okay. Great. I know that some commissioners had been able to come out and see the site. Do you want for the commissioners just to go through, Charles, why you're here?
Sure.
Amy, do you have any photos or anything that you want to share, or?
I actually thought they were up and they are not up. So basically, Mr. Dutton, correct me if I'm wrong. they had come to ask for a removal of us for 5 trees. I think it was 2 pines right in front of the house and right along the reservoir, and then 3 over on the side. Tim spent a lot of time, went through the permit application process, including the abutter notification. So they actually talked to Concord Water as an abutter. And when Concord Water said, fine, they see no problems, they thought that they meant they could go ahead and take the trees down.
Correct.
So the trees are down.
Yeah. I'm fine. Again, I wouldn't change anything only because I know you know the history I've told you in several of the emails. You know, my father being 87 years old and just lost his house in Florida the year before, and his wife of 60 years. So I just, when my father says to do something, I just did it. And when New England Tree Master said, "Hey, we have a week a day open next week. We can come out and do it." Town of Concom came out and said they gave permission to say they are the butters on the left and right side of his property and the lake, all within probably 30 feet of the house. And I said these trees, they're pretty much in danger of falling, and it's kind of glad we did it at the time, because I think there was a storm that came through like 2 weeks after that, and my neighbor lost a lot of trees. So again, if I did jump the gun, I apologize for that, but just again, granting my father's wishes. Like I said, he's 87 years old. I wasn't about to say, well, Dad, we still got some red tape we got to figure out and do some other things, and God forbid something ever happened in that window that we didn't act accordingly. But like I said, you said, we met with Tim last week, and I showed him the stumps and stuff, and we didn't grind any of the stumps and stuff like that. And there literally is probably 100 trees all around these tree stumps within 100 square feet. So to plant more trees there was kind of crazy in my eyes, but I'm just talking like just like I said, in my eyes. So if you guys say I got to plant other things there, you're more than welcome to come out there and tell me what kind of trees to plant. Obviously, I don't want to plant any pines or oaks again, because we'll be in the same position. Granted, my father won't be around, or 100 feet tall, but I'm planning on doing something with that property after he moves on. So just don't know what that is yet, but you tell me where we go from here, and I'll be happy to help.
Thank you. Kyle or Michael or Chase, questions? Anyone been out on site, or Amy, input?
I was able to go on site with Tim, and it doesn't seem like the locations where the trees were cut down lend themselves to replanting in those exact locations. They were, along the sides where there was a great deal of growth, and the ones that were along the water were actually on north of where the sun is, so there wasn't going to be a shade issue or anything to do with the water. So just from my observations, it didn't really seem like planting in the exact same places would be helpful or advantageous.
And just to add to what Michael just said too, the pine trees, 2 pines we took down, I probably have some pictures of before they were taken down. They were got to be at least 75 to 100 feet tall. And the problem was, you had to the south, to the east was the lake, and they were within 5 to 10 feet off the lake, and there was no root structure there. So if the wind was to blow them anywhere, it would be towards the house. And that's what made my father pretty nervous. And actually, he does sleep on the porch out there all summer long, which is probably within 25 to 30 feet of these trees. And granted, he takes his hearing aids out, and the trees are swaying back and forth. He can't hear them cracking and stuff like that, but he was pretty nervous. Like I said, he lost his house in Florida last year to the hurricane. So if my father said jump, I would say how high. I probably wouldn't do anything different, but again, I'm just trying to make amends right now. So you tell me if I got to plant something like a shrub or something like that to prevent anything from, soil going into the lake or something like that. I'm all for that. Whatever you guys want me to do.
Commissioners, suggestions, thoughts? Chase, Kyle?
I mean, yeah, I have the same set of thoughts here that I've had with every one of these, and that's that we cannot, as a matter of course, allow people to take down trees at the shoreline because they plan on doing something in the future, or they're inconvenient, or they don't like the view that the view with the trees. in this scenario, I'm not sure we know anything about the trees, in terms of whether or not they truly were a hazard. Again, this sort of transcends this particular thing. I also really object to the idea that, any tree that is tall and proximal to a building is a hazard. That just doesn't make sense to me. So, I'm concerned that we've seen a lot of these recently, and this one in particular, got out of order. I understand why it got out of order and so on, but I don't like the general direction that we're going here in terms of opening up shorelines.
Amy, has Tim had an opportunity to look at or do any suggestions for replantings?
We haven't. I will say that when we looked at the site quite a while ago now, I would have concurred about the 2 pines along the shoreline that didn't have much root structure left to them, and they were going to get the wind right off the lake. If I recall, you had the Duttons had sent over some pictures of the 3 on the side that had been taken down, at least one showing rot in the stump. But I don't recall those trees myself too clearly. I think that if we do, whatever number of shrubs or small trees that the commission likes, we can certainly find a place to put them nearer to the shoreline.
Okay.
Yeah, just to go back to what Chase was saying too. So the land has been in my name for over 80 years. My father's been looking at him since he was a kid. So it wasn't a matter of just taking trees down for a clear view. If you guys are familiar with that area, if you drive down 2A, like where the Rusty Scupper or Crossroads is, I'm sure Sarah would say too. If you look that way during Christmas, there was always a white cross hanging up for Christmas. And that was hanging on one of the pine trees for the last 45 to 50 years. Since I was a kid, we were on, and now we have no place to hang it. So it wasn't like he was taking these trees down to improve his view. We've been looking at these trees it was my grandfather's property, now my father's property, and when my father moves on. So it's not like we bought the place 5 years ago and say, hey, let's clear these trees. So just to clear that up.
All right, thank you. All right, so we've got to move on. Thoughts, commissioners? Do we want to have Charles work on a planting plan or suggestions and then come back?
My suggestion here, Sarah, in the interest of moving this along, is to authorize Amy and Tim to come up with some kind of replanting that is appropriate and to scale there. I'm not sure it's beneficial to the resource area, us, or the Duttons to have to come back in.
Okay.
I'd rather give Amy and Tim the green light to resolve it.
Okay, commissioners, you feel good with that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Amy, do you need any direction from us, or you generally?
Do you have any idea what kind of ratio you'd want if there's 5 trees? Do you want 5 to 10 shrubs or saplings or whatever? Or do you have a goal?
My goal is
not seen the site.
Right. I mean, I'm looking at the photos that you sent around a while ago. My goal is to make sure that we've got stability and some sort of ecological compensation there, and it doesn't necessarily have to be 1 for 1. Beyond that, I'd rather defer to your expertise.
Okay, fair enough.
So, Charles, basically what you heard there is that we're gonna have it'll be your path to take to listen to what their suggestions are, but then you would come up with a plan and the proximity of where those would be. Obviously, we're not going to plant them till the spring now, but Amy and Tim will work with you on that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so next let's see, let's do one more request for certificate of compliance, 30 Warren, DEP 2040525.
Yep, you'll see that's an old one, and they're just trying to clean up their property files.
Okay, and everything's fine. So do we have someone that can make a motion for this?
Move
Yep,
to
go
issue
ahead.
a certificate of compliance for 30 Warren Road, Mass DEP file number 2040525.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Michael Livingston,
Michael Livingston, aye.
Chase Gerbig,
Chase Gerbig, aye.
Sarah Seward,
Sarah Seward, aye.
Carl Melberg has joined us.
I'm Melberg, aye.
Kyle Maxfield, aye. See you now.
Let's just finish up the next two. Certificate of Compliance 91 Mattawanakee 204-0287.
Yeah, the next two are the same thing. They're just trying to clean up property files. 91 Mattawanakee will likely be coming in for something in the next several months also. So they're just trying to get the background cleaned up.
Okay, so we need two motions for the same property, two separate DEP numbers.
Move that we issue a certificate of compliance for 91 Mattawanakee, Mass DEP file number 204-0287. Sarah, do you want these as one motion or two?
I think you can, we'll just keep it singular. So I second that.
All right, roll call vote. Mike Livingston,
Michael Livingston, aye.
Chase Gerbig,
Chase Gerbig, aye.
Sarah Seward,
Sarah Seward, aye.
Carl Melberg,
Melberg, aye.
and Kyle Maxwell, aye. It's unanimous.
And I move that the Conservation Commission issues a certificate of compliance for 91 Mattawanakee, Mass DEP file number 204-0404.
Second.
It's been moved. Seconded. So Mike Livingston,
Michael Livingston, aye.
Chase Gerbig,
Chase Gerbig, aye.
Sarah Seward,
Sarah Seward, aye.
Carl Melberg,
Carl Melberg, aye.
and Kyle Maxwell, aye. Also unanimous.
Okay, thank you. Let's go ahead and start with the 7:45 continued public meeting, request for determination of applicability, 1 Sandus Point, removal of hazardous trees. Anyone here to speak to that?
He's hopefully coming in now, I think. Nope, he also declined.
Okay, let's go ahead and go back to administrative discussions.
Oh, he got his hand up. Bob, can you hear us? You're on mute right now.
Mute. Okay.
How's that?
We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Can you see me?
No.
no, but that's okay.
Oh, come on. I just took a shower.
You would have to agree to be promoted to panelist, and you rejected that, so.
Oh, well, didn't know that. Oh, well.
Okay. We're all set?
Yep, welcome back. So where are we at this time?
Okay. So what we did is there was some concern about having the arborist that also does the work. And we agreed with that. So what we did is we followed your recommendation and brought in an arborist that is completely separate. They do not do the work on your recommendation. So what she did is she came out and looked at everything. You should have her report and the pictures of the trees. So originally there were 7 trees that we were talking about. What she determined is tree number 2, number 3, and number 7 were the ones that were really dangerous, that absolutely needed to be taken down. So that's in line with what the other 2 arborists said, but she didn't think that the other ones at this time needed to be removed, which was good to hear from our point of view, and probably and yours, I guess. So so what we're asking for now is the 3 trees, number 2, number 3, and number 7. She explained why. She has the pictures and all of that kind of stuff. But that leaves the remaining 4 trees.
Yes.
And so that's what we're looking for.
Okay, commissioners, I think everyone's been out on site. Anyone have any questions?
No questions or comments from me. I can find a way to accept this one.
Yep, and to note, Bob, just to confirm that we're leaving the stumps.
Yes.
Okay.
So Chase, you said accepting this, but is there any sort of mitigation or is there? I saw that there was a couple notes.
Yeah. What she gave some recommendations. What our hobby is this property, and we're constantly planting environmentally friendly, blah, 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 on the property. So, as that comes down, nice things go in, and she told us where to go to get recommendations.
She had some very specific things, and she had some recommendations to, for example, not to try to plant, a large tree, because basically in the process of planting, you destabilize. So she had recommended a couple of shrubs and sent us off to Native Plant Trust to get some recommendations from them.
Okay, great.
And would the commission care about any particular number?
Yeah, so that was where I guess that's where I was trying to get to. Is there a number, or are we gonna pass this off to Amy again and say, here you go, good luck, Amy?
Of a particular number of trees?
Shrubs.
Shrubs?
I'd rather make a site-specific determination based on Amy's expertise again, frankly.
Yeah,
Okay.
as long as we're constant, and that's what we're.
Yep. Michael and Carl, are you okay with that?
Yep, that makes sense.
Okay.
I'm probably gonna be looking for something like 3 to 6 of them.
Yep. I would say 6, 2 for 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Okay, do we have,
So you're looking for
looking for a negative?
motion
Yes, please.
for a negative determination of applicability.
Yep.
All right, so I will make a motion that we issue a negative determination of applicability for 1 Sandus Point for the removal of the 3 trees as discussed tonight.
Okay. Second.
All right, roll call vote. Michael Livingston.
Michael Livingston, aye?
Yep.
Am I
Jesus
agreeing?
Sperling?
Yes.
You are, even though it says negative, you are still agreeing to the motion.
Very good.
Kyle.
My internet is crapping. You still hear me? My internet is getting one. So Chase Gerbig,
Chase Gerbig, aye.
Sarah Seward,
Eric Seward, aye.
Carl Melberg,
Carl Melberg, aye.
Oh,
Carl Melberg, aye.
we got you, but we just lost Kyle.
Kyle just left.
And
So,
Sarah
okay.
Seward.
Yep, so we're all in favor, so the motion passes. Okay. So Bob, you and your wife are all set. Okay, let's go back quickly to
Okay,
administrative.
I just want to thank you guys. I know your job is not easy, so take care.
And I'll be back in touch, Bob.
Okay.
Budget and priorities, fiscal year 25.
That's not gonna be a quick one.
All right, we'll come back to that. Browns Woods extension, Phragmite treatment.
I didn't actually apply for the extension. I just wanted to double check and make sure that you all would basically be fine with it. It's doesn't have to be extended until next August, but I'm going to need to get a quote ahead of time. So
Okay.
they did the 3 years of Phragmites treatment out at Browns Woods twice a year. And going forward, I know we need at least 1 more summer of treatment. So I just want to see if that seems reasonable to you, and I'll go ahead and get you the formal paperwork, or if you want more discussion.
I would go ahead and get the quote.
It's real close. It's looking good.
Okay. Good. Okay, Northbridge Amazon quarterly report. Question is, do they need to come in at some point? I think it would be wise.
All right, I'll have them come in. I'll have them come in next
Get some
time.
of those numbers.
Did anybody look at the data? I certainly have some questions after looking at the data.
I had more questions than answers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Amy, I think to go ahead and ask them to come in, that would be good.
Is that something that we, like the water department, should we let them know that we're having that discussion with them? Does that save anybody time and heartache, or are they only sort of reporting this to us?
No, I was gonna see if the water department wants to get in on this.
Okay.
Like, or at least see
That'd be
the-
Right. At least, have Corey come and.
Okay, Four Pond Aquatic Management Report. That's DEP 204-0823.
that was just letting you know the yearly one came in.
Okay. Next, wildlife habitat improvement grant and Phragmites control.
So the wildlife habitat improvement grant went in, and that was for the Phragmites control at Cloverdale. And I will be submitting the notice of intent for that work tomorrow, so you'll see that on the 28th. And right now, what I'm anticipating is that if we get the wildlife habitat grant, then that covers the first year. If we don't get that, I'm going to try for the water department community grant to cover the cutting piece of it and CPC the rest. And if none of that works out, we're putting this whole thing off a year, basically.
Sounds like a plan. Okay.
Can I ask a quick question about that? If we put it off a year, does it end up just costing us exponentially more because we're losing control of things, or do you expect we won't see a major change from year to year?
I'm not sure if it'd be a major change. I would assume that their costs might just go up in general. As well.
Sure, yeah.
Phragmites as well. So
yeah, I guess that's what I was trying to get at. Like, are we, if we don't have the money, are we going to end up with something that's twice as big a year from now as doing it this year, just because the vegetation has grown and Phragmites have expanded?
I certainly don't think twice as much, but there'll be some increase. And the problem is that if we're going to start this year, we need to start before in this fiscal year where I don't have budget to pay for it. That's the stampede.
Okay. So what you're telling me is, even if it was a problem, there's not really a solution financially if we don't get the funding sources that we need.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Because they need to cut it during the winter time to get things ready for the spring.
Got it. Thank you.
Meeting dates.
That was just an FYI. I had sent those around for 2024. But I will also point out, since it's been a month since we've met, that we're going to pay for it. We're meeting November 28th, and then the next week, December 5th. I got some back-to-backs in order to get basically back on schedule. So hopefully one of those will be a light meeting as opposed to this meeting.
Okay. Let's do one more lakeshore compliance guidance discussion.
I think that's tabled. Yeah, Michael?
Yes, for now.
Yeah.
Tree protection policy, do you want to table that for one of the lighter meetings?
Yeah, I think you all saw what Kyle did. It's been sent to you. So we just want to make sure you were alerted to that, and we'll put it on one of the next meetings.
Does it have any action item that we need to discuss tonight, Kyle?
No, I think we need to discuss it. I think it was an email with all of the information for this meeting. Chase, I can see here. he was in the group of items in that cluster. But yeah, there's definitely some items that, especially stuff that came up tonight, like ratios, replicate, mitigation ratios and stuff that we need to discuss. But I think the bones are there. Obviously open to comment, so please take a look and we can talk about it more.
Okay.
Procedurally, is it okay if I'm like redline the document and like if I have thoughts that we might want to consider and circulate that?
I think that's fine. I mean, it's not yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Good for people to take a look at those ahead of time.
Right. Mm-hmm. We'll have those. We'll send you some comments if any of the commissioners have some. Let's go ahead. It's 8 o'clock. Let's go ahead and open the 8 o'clock public hearing notice of intent 69 Mattawanakee, and there is a no Mass DEP number. Repair replacement of a boat shed. Karen McNamara. Karen, if you can hear us, you're on.
And you're muted.
Okay, I got it. Now on this panel, I do have 3 dots next to the mute. On the other panel, I didn't, just to let you know, Sarah.
Okay. Good. Is anyone else here with you this evening with this hearing, Karen?
No.
Okay. Do you have any pictures that you would like to share with us?
I think you all have them, right?
I'm trying to bring them up right now.
Okay, yeah.
So Karen, if you can just give us the story of what you're looking for, that would be great for the commissioners.
Okay, the property came, we got here about 47 years ago with essentially a garage facing the lake with a garage door. And about 4 years ago, right before the pandemic, we had about 3 rafters going, and the roof had moss on it. So we were going to start having it. We were going to have it fixed, and we had a contractor. The young man died, and the pandemic came. The moss grew. All the rafters are bad, and water is seeped down the side. So it's a big job now, but it is just the replacement of as many cinder blocks as necessary. They'll dig it down. They're going to put concrete into the cinder blocks of the new version of it. It's way up away from the water, but it's just a garage built backwards. What was I going to tell you? Oh yeah. Well, I did all the paperwork, and I thought I got everything in, and I didn't get the $42.50 into the DEP. I sent it out yesterday with, super fast mail, but it got there probably this morning, but it's not going to clear. So we don't have the number. After we can discuss this, but afterwards, I think it's okay. Mr. Livingston came out with Amy and looked at it, and it's a garage. It's just going to be replaced, or pieces of it are going to be replaced. That's about it. I would ask you if we get the number, because it's getting colder, if we get the number between now and your next meeting, are you authorized to give the orders of condition pending a number coming in that Amy feels is good and the DEP thinks is good? We got the email from a woman named Mia McDonald, I think, that everything looked good. She just missed the check. And I sent the copy of the check. It was the wrong check. It was the one that went to Amy. It was just a mess last week. I ran around like crazy. But anyway, the 4250 has gone and into Boston. And I would expect that if everybody else feels as good as I think Amy and Mia McDonald feel, we should get a number before, well before your meeting. And that would be my question. Can you do that? And if you can, would you?
Yep. Thank you, Karen, for that question. So as policy, we're not able to close and have final judgment or verdict on anything without a Mass DEP number. So
I know that.
Definitely able to do so. Michael, I'll ask you for comments on the site because you had the opportunity to go out, and thank you for going out. And to Amy as well.
I guess the only comment I'd have is how to just protect the water and the downslope while the work is going on.
Yeah.
And Michael, what's the form of access for construction?
Well, that's the other thing. It's, walking, well, it's hard to say because everything was covered with leaves. It's raining. But I don't recall that there's clear access to get there.
And
Karen, can you walk us through erosion? So the concern is down gradient of the work that's being done. Erosion controls would go in. What is your contractor's form of access?
Yeah, and Amy knows this because if you look at the picture that looks up at the house, there's a huge wall there, which we did about, when was that? Maybe about 5 years ago. And so the big wall, yeah, that one there. And the access is through my neighbor's yard and the Veronics. And they're wonderful. She's wonderful. She's a widow. We've been there together for over 40 years, her and I and my husband. So, and there are ways of letting trucks in and putting plywood down on her pavement and so forth. So the contractor knows how to do that. In terms of, I'm describing this with my hands, and it's no good to you, I know. In terms of erosion control, I know there's a term for it. I always call it the snakes, the baffling. What is it?
Bottles.
Yeah, but my clock is going off. I'm so sorry. It's almost over. It's late. So is it a baffle? Is that what you said?
Well,
Anyway, we have some of those still there from the last job, because I like them there. They hold some of the erosion back that's normal in the area. So yeah, Sal, the contractor that Amy met, understands where all of that will go. And Amy drew out where, again, with my hands, Amy drew out when she was out the first time where those would need to be and how extensive. And I'll make sure that's done because, you know, I understand. We did all that not that long ago. So yeah, I think we're okay there.
and he did also say no stockpiling there. They're just moving the material right
They're
off.
taking
And
it
right
all
in.
out. There'll be a demo subcontractor that'll take everything out. Then there'll be the contractors that'll put the garage back together, and then there'll be a different subcontractor that comes in and does the roof. Yeah, that's the way. And poor contractor's been trying to schedule this in September, and he blew it when he didn't go to conservation as early as I suggested he should. And then I blew it last week.
Go ahead. I want to see if the commissioners have any questions. Chase, do you have any questions?
Yeah, my concern here is that notwithstanding the fact that the applicant has said we know what we need to do, what's drawn on the pictures is not going to be adequate. If the access is from around the edge, we're going to be disturbing that. I presume that there's going to be some kind of equipment there. That we need a much more comprehensive understanding of where the sediment and erosion control is going to take place. We need really clear indications that everyone understands.
Well, can you look at the picture where you show the wall?
I'm looking at the picture that Amy's got up right now, and I'm telling you that just wattles at the base of the garage is not going to be adequate.
No, it's going to go into my neighbor's property. The wattles do. They go all the way over. They did the last time too.
Okay, but that's not what your application shows.
Right. So the application, what is presented has to be what we see. So in terms of the plan where it shows lot 36, it would have to be to scale. And so you'd have to show really the whole breadth of where the wattles are going to go.
Okay. If I'm sorry about that, we will fix that. If you look at her car in her driveway, the white car, it will go well beyond that down here, down at the bottom. Well, the one that's there now is well beyond that. So definitely they will go well beyond that.
So what you would need to do is to submit to the conservation office a plan that shows that.
Okay.
And so because you don't have the Mass DEP number presently, you actually have time to do that.
Yeah, I will do it.
That is requested for the next hearing, which would be November the 28th.
Okay.
I'd also like to ask the applicant to indicate where material storage will be. It's fine with me if it's a large area, as long as it's clear that that's the material storage that will be outside of the resource area. You know, and we don't need a big engineered plan. Frankly, what's up on our screen annotated with these things is okay with me in this case.
Okay, so the material storage, I probably could answer that right now, but I'll wait for the contractor.
Yeah, talk with your contractor about that.
I know he wants to put windows and doors way up, leaning against the big wall. And then the rest of the project will be done as it's being done. So the demolition will go and it'll get out. There's going to be a big dumpster in Mary's yard, my neighbor's yard, and that'll be filled and then go. And then they will bring in, I presume they will bring in the materials just like they did for the wall. And there's where you see Mary's car, she will park it in a slightly different place, and that's all gravel, and that's where the materials will be piled up, and then they will bring it in. So that's how they're going to do it. But I'll write that up, or he'll write that up, or we'll write that up next week and get it to you.
Karen, does that include soil that's excavated to repair the foundation?
I don't expect any soil to be excavated. The floor is going to stay the same. We're not sure how many cinder blocks from the ground up is going to stay. It's just where it's bowed up. My hands are not helping you at all.
I guess I'm confused again then, because your application says you're going to dig out a foot of dirt all the way around.
Okay. Sorry.
And my point here is that
what I don't. Side. There won't be any digging on the left, as far as I know, when you're facing the house. not on the left, on the
And
right.
digging is fine.
driveway
What I don't want to see is unstable soil stockpiled on a slope.
Oh, it won't.
Want-
No, absolutely. I agree.
And that's fine. And that's another thing that I want to make sure is clear on your plan, that to the extent that soil is going to be stockpiled, it's going to be in a level area with, erosion controls around it.
Okay. I don't think we'll be stockpiling soil, but okay, I'll write that down.
You
I'm
are
just-
often better off in these things to make sure contingencies that could happen are
I know.
permitted instead of going the other way around.
Okay, so let me recap so that I get everything right, because if we're putting this off to December, we may be putting it off till spring, and there are already doors and windows in and things like that, and
Karen, can I suggest before you recap? Those are just my comments. I think it would
Okay.
be worthwhile to hear if other commissioners.
oh, okay, I'll be quiet. Thank you.
Commissioners? Anyone?
I don't think I have anything other than what Chase has brought up. And especially hearing now, as long as there's going to be any sort of excavation, I was more worried about post-construction stabilization.
Yeah,
Any
it's
disturbed
basically
areas.
I didn't hear all that. Say it a little louder.
in time. Okay. Okay, Karen, if you have any questions, feel free to call Amy as well.
She'll be sick of me. Yes. No, Amy and Tim have been great. And if it wasn't for my flub with the 4250, I really expected to get, through here tonight. I didn't realize that the picture of the wattle was less than what we all talked about. We talked about where it was going all to the left of the garage. So I'm sorry about that. The stability,
It sounds like it was good that you can make these modifications to your plans and be ready for the next go
I
round.
guess so. So a different question is, if the contractors can't pull it off in December, and of course I doubt very much they want to do it in January, does this hold, or do we start all over again in the spring?
Once it's issued, you're fine to go ahead and start work in the spring.
Oh, okay. Well, that's some help.
The issue is good. The permit is good for 3 years.
Oh, well, God willing. No. Okay. So you talked about material storage. So that means the stuff coming in. You talked about piling up soil, which
So that's basically if you are excavating around the structure, where that's going to go, if it's going to leave or if it's going to stay. As Chase reiterated, we just don't want any soils that can leave the site and run down the bank.
It would no, believe me, this is the third time of doing stuff on the lake. So although the first one was in '88. Okay, so just so I think this is what the end story will be. When you're facing the house, the right of the garage, facing the garage door, the right is enclosed. So whatever digging out there is just staying there, and then we'll put the gravel back and put a garden deck. The left of that garage is all gravel. So I don't even think they're going to pick up the gravel, but I could be wrong. To the back of the garage is definitely gravel, and I don't think they're going to do anything with that wall. But I will double check with the contractor and write that up. But if I had thought there was any problem, I would have had that written up. The wattle was always going to go, as I said, parallel to that car that you saw, because the old wattle is still there. So it's the material storage. It comes in and goes. It comes in, gets used, comes in, gets used. The stuff going out, big dumpster on Mary's property, up where it's gravel, and that's flat. The only thing that worries me, and I'm pretty sure we're not digging anything out except to the right of the garage, is that there is no flat, as Mr. Livingston would tell you. Facing the garage to the left, after you've come down this little path, everything else is Mary's property, but it's all hill. So we won't be storing anything on Mary's property except for using her driveway and the stuff above. So I'm pretty sure we're in the clear for everything, because we've done this before. But I will write it up so that you are assured, because you don't know me, but I've known conservation for years and I've always been in good shape. Okay.
One other thing that I do want to make sure we have documentation of is the abutting property owner's consent to use that. I'm reluctant to issue a permit that allows an applicant to work on someone else's property without confirmation from that property owner that they're okay with that.
Okay.
An email, I just want to make sure that we're not getting crossways with someone who disagrees with.
No, Mary,
I understand. It's not don't take it as anything other than we just want to do our due diligence.
I understand, but you understand that that wall goes across the whole property. If I don't get this done before one of us dies, it's going to be a tough situation down the road. There's only one more thing to do in the back after this, and Amy and I will discuss that someday in the future. And I'm done with the back. Because of that reason.
Right. So, Karen, we've got to keep going. We've got a very busy. So
it's Mary's consent, private storage, and material storage. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I'd like to go ahead and open the 8:15 public hearing. Notice of intent, Littleton water supply connection, Wickham Ave and Taylor Street. There is not a DEP number at the present time. Connection of the new water supply well. There's a presentation, I believe. Corey?
And Sarah, I will also say there's several people out in the audience whose names I don't recognize or sort of recognize. So if any of them need to come in as panelists for this presentation, let me know. But we should also make sure we see if the public has any questions at the end of this.
For sure. If there is someone that should be in this hearing as a panelist, just raise your hand and Amy or I will see that. Corey, the floor is all yours.
All right. Well, thank you all for having us tonight. I have Tara McManus and Jordan Fould from Weston and Sampson Engineers here with us tonight, and they're going to be doing most of the presenting and answering most of the technical questions. So if you don't mind, I'll just hand it over to them now.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. I guess, do we operate our own PowerPoint or do you have it loaded for on your end?
That'd be great if you could operate your own.
Okay, great. Perfect. Jordan, do you want to pull it up?
You're muted, Jordan, I think.
I read her lips, so I'm good. Well, thank you very much. I'm Tara McManus with Weston and Sampson, project manager for this large project that we've got going on between Littleton and Boxborough. Wanted to kind of talk a little bit about the project up front as far as the construction, and then I'm going to hand it over to Jordan to kind of talk a little bit about the wetlands. I believe Alex Gaspar from our office might also be in the waiting room. So if that name looks familiar on any of the folks that are in the audience, that we would love to have Alex join us as well.
I think
I've been let in.
Oh, perfect. Hello. Good morning and afternoon. Excuse me. Evening now. Jeez. It's a long day for me. Sorry, I've been out.
Okay, Tara, go ahead.
Okay, perfect. So this is the background of the project. The main primary reason for this project is for Littleton to have a redundant source. We've designed this well. It's been several years in the making. The new source is going to be for the customers in Littleton. An added benefit is actually to extend the water system down to Boxborough to some contaminated wells. There are 11 public water suppliers in this area of Boxborough, as well as some residents along this project route that have contaminated wells with salt and some PFAS. So this new well that we're going to be constructing for Littleton will be bringing the water directly from the new well source in Littleton to the new PFAS treatment plant that Corey's just built. And then all of that water will be treated for PFAS removal at that treatment facility. And then the water will be transmitted out to Littleton customers, as well as a portion of Boxborough that's going to be extended into. This has been, again, several years in the making. We've been working with Mass DOT, with the Salt Contamination Group. We've been working with Mass DEP, who is notifying us of all the Littleton and also other customers that have some contamination, specifically in Boxborough. The Littleton Electric Light and Water Department has been a primary assistance with us, is obviously for the design portion of this project, and then the town of Boxborough, obviously because there's an intermunicipal agreement developed at this point to transmit the water over to them once the customers connect in. So there's the construction of the actual well itself, a pump station on site to pump the water from the well to the new treatment facility, a raw water main that will transmit that all the way from the well to the new treatment facility, And then we're also going to be replacing the existing water main in Whitcomb Ave from Taylor Street all the way down to Route 2, and then a stretch in Littleton further on for the finished water main to extend it into Boxborough from roughly Nancy's Way and down into the town line and on Whitcomb Ave. Next slide, please. So again, this is a brief summary here just to kind of put the words up onto the screen. Again, it's a new source. It's a 500,000 gallon a day source. It's going to be a redundant source for Littleton, provide additional water supply to the customers in Littleton. And again, there's going to be an access road that's going to need to be, utilized by Littleton to make sure that they can maintain and operate their pump station and clean their well. It runs from the Amazon facility into the woodland area, which we'll show on the next slide, to where the new proposed well is. And if you recall, a few years back, we were in front of the commission to propose to do a pumping test out there to determine whether or not this well was a suitable source. Everything came back, as far as positive source. Pumping test was approved by DEP, and now we're in our next phase of actually construction and permitting for all of that work. Again, I mentioned that we are replacing an existing water main in Whitcomb Ave, and then there's roughly 4.5 miles within the Boxborough project running from Harvard all the way down into roughly 330 Codman Hill Road in Boxborough. So it's really an extensive project. It's really a very good benefit for the town of Littleton, number one, with a new source, as well as helping out with contaminated well sources for individual customers and public water suppliers that are located on the transmission main route. Boxborough does not have a municipal system, so this is a real big benefit for the residents as well down there, and certainly to get cleaner water treated from the treatment facility that's been recently built and to remove the PFAS chemicals. So I'm going to actually turn it over to our wetlands folks because they can kind of talk through the actual permitting process as well as all of our, project itself within your wetland jurisdiction.
You're on
So
mute, Jordan.
I'm going to turn over to either Alex or Jordan.
Sorry, I'm just unmuting, then I will share my screen again. So for the project description, as Tara mentioned, there's going to be construction of a water supply well, access road to the well, and the raw water main connecting to the well to the new WTP and replacement of the existing water main in Whitcomb Ave. And for this first slide, we have a map of the project area. So the green line is the raw extension, then the red line is the finish extension, and the pink dot is the well site, and the orange line is the access road. And then we have the floodplain map. So we also have the green line again, and the well site, and the access road. And here are some pictures of the environmental resource areas on site, the bordering vegetative wetland A and bordering vegetated wetland D. The environmental impacts, there will be no impact to bordering vegetated wetlands or isolated wetlands on site, and there will be temporary and permanent impacts to bordering land subject to flooding. There's going to be 7,700 feet of temporary impact to bordering land subject to flooding and 2,512 square feet of permanent impact. For riverfront area, there's going to be 12,643 square feet of temporary impact and no impact to bank. And there's going to be 23,177 square feet of temporary impact within the 100 foot of a wetland buffer zone, and 35,754 permanent impact within the wetland buffer zone. And erosion controls will be used for the duration of the project, including silt fence, catch basin protection, and compost filter tubes. And there's also going to be some cubic flood storage lost in the bordering land subject to flooding. That's going to be 13.8, and that there's also going to be cubic feet replaced with 352. And we also received some comments from Amy, and we have some responses to those comments. So we had some questions on the BLSF, if there was going to be over 5,000 square feet within naturally vegetated areas, and within the bordering land subject to flooding, there's going to be less than 5,000 square feet of disturbance around the well site, and there's going to be greater than 5,000 square feet along the water main cross country. Also, there was a comment on the plans regarding erosion controls not being continuous, and the engineer mentioned the scale sheet on C103 is 1 inch equals 80 feet. So we expect more space than what appears on the plan to place erosion controls. And erosion controls are going to be strategically placed based on the slope and runoff direction of the site. There was also a question about trenches, and trenches shall be excavated to such depths that will permit the pipe to be laid at the elevation, slopes, and depths of cover indicated on the drawings. The contractor shall strip the superficial topsoil layer and underlying subsoil layer separate from underlying soil. All excavated materials shall be stockpiled separately from each other within the limits of work, and backfilling is started as soon as practicable after the pipes have been laid. Material removed from the excavation may be used for backfilling if it's deemed suitable. There was also a question about the number of trees near the new well site, and the access road allows the existing cleared path to about station 7 plus 50, and then it diverts from the existing dirt road access and clears a new path. The trees are not very dense in that area, but a section would have to be clear cut, and that would be roughly 450 by 300 by 30 feet wide. And we have images to share if you would like to see that area.
Yes, please.
Okay, let me just pull up the pictures.
I'll just add while Jordan's pulling up the photos that we are scheduling a meeting on site to do a site walk with the agent.
And Tara, maybe while Jordan's pulling those up, is any of this substantially off of the alignment of an existing road, or are we really just following the alignment of roads that are already there? It's a little hard to tell given the scale here. Sorry, maybe that's a really
no worries.
question.
It's actually it's really difficult to see unless you kind of walk it. So there is a large portion of it we are following kind of the existing pathway, but we do need to carve out, as Jordan said towards the end there, we do need to carve out about 450 feet or so straight towards the well to kind of make it a much easier pathway for getting access to the well site with vehicles from the water department. So here's some good images of kind of there's definitely some trees out there, and if we need to mark them out and let you know exactly which ones, we'll obviously be staking the roadway, the whole construction route when it's approved as far as that goes, and then cutting down specific trees to kind of have enough pathway to create that road and the swale on the side.
So for this image, it's not going to be on the side next to the wetland, but this is just an example of the density of the trees in the area.
And can you remind us again where exactly that is, that 400 or 450 feet?
Yeah, it's on towards the well itself, and
so it's going to be in this area over here,
closest to the well, coming out from the well.
You have the actual plan to put up?
Yes. Um,
I think you want to go with the other one.
the other one, okay.
So pretty much this stretch right here on that plan sheet. So we've tried to curve the road around based on elevation, but also trying to stay outside of the buffer zone or you know, obviously impact areas as much as possible. So it's a circuitous, curvy roadway.
Tara, can we step back for a second? Can you orient us to this figure a little bit more to make sure that we're understanding it correctly?
Yep, one sheet up, please, Jordan. One more, sorry, my bad. Okay, so up at the top there, you can see Route 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then pretty much our water main starts in the top left corner, the raw water main, cutting across Route 2, then going directly right all the way across the entire sheet. And then we come down along the Amazon property. We curve around, and then we shoot over towards the well itself.
With a directional drill under Beaverbrook.
Yeah,
Yes, the
I
directional
was
drill is
looking at that.
up top. Yes, at the top there. So
Thanks.
you've got the two access pits that are kind of called out on both sides of that, roughly, 400 feet, 500 feet or so directional drill under Beaverbrook.
Oh, what depth underneath Beaverbrook? Do you know?
I believe there's a detail actually. But roughly 5 to 10 feet or so.
Oh, okay, I found it. Thank you. Yeah, it looks like you have 15 feet below the.
Yep.
And then can you go back to the original that showed the proximity to the wetlands to that building? Yep. So I'm concerned, is this, when you chose this location, no, go back to the plan, I'm seeing how close you are to the wetlands. Is there any movement? I'm assuming that's a turnaround above that. I'm very concerned with how close we are at this particular juncture for that, in the blue for that wetlands, for the work done there.
So the well itself, it is where it is. That's the permitted well source, and Littleton Water Department requested to have a building on top of that to protect their source, and as well as put the infrastructure inside the building. So that location of the building, it could rotate a little bit, but really that well, the well location itself can't be moved. But I can see your point that the road itself is a little close.
A little close? That's an understatement.
Yeah, we do need the road to go right up to the well, because there is routine maintenance that needs to happen on the well where the pump gets pulled, and that has to happen with a crane truck. So they need to be able to drive right up to it. So that's why the roadway goes, that close to the wetlands.
So you made a statement that you're going to have a site walk with the agent. So I'm assuming that the commissioners are going to want a site walk as well. And obviously we'd want to do that before there's snow cover. Because the project won't go through if there's snow cover and we haven't had a chance to look at it.
Let's do that as soon as possible then. What would work best for you all?
Well, you have to, is it staked presently, flagged and staked?
So there's flags hung in this location. Our wetland delineator is not present in this meeting, but we can have a discussion with her on when the best time and coordinate with Amy either tomorrow or Thursday.
Where is the permanent fill being placed in the bordering vegetated wetland area?
Zero in the BVW.
What's that?
I didn't think there was any in the BVW.
Yeah, it's zero. There's fill in bordering land subject to flooding.
Oh, the boring land subject. Okay.
Yeah, we need to raise the station itself above the 100-year floodplain.
So Carl, I think you were asking like wherever there is permanent change to highlight on these maps where the permanent changes will occur.
Yeah, because I couldn't tell.
Perhaps they could address that.
So the permanent change is going to be the roadway, which is in the buffer zone. The
Oh, I
access
think
road.
that's yeah. I mean, I don't think I clarified my question. So it's within 100 feet of the BVW, correct?
Yeah.
Placement fill material.
Yeah,
Yeah.
within 100 feet down here. And there's also going to be, yeah, this is the area that's permanent within the 100 foot of the bordering vegetated wetland.
And when you say 100 feet, how close is it?
You show the 50 and the 100-foot lines.
Is that dotted, that dashed yellow line, the 100-foot buffer, it looks like?
Yeah, let me see. It says it on the side.
It's like there's a riverfront in there too.
What color is the front?
Alex, could you help me with this part? Let's see. There should be.
Amy, you could maybe talk to them about the color codes as well at some point.
Yeah, the line dot is the 100-foot, and then the just plain dashed yellow, I think, is the 50.
Yes, so this one is the 100 foot from the wetlands, and this one is likely the 50 foot from the wetlands.
Yep, the dash is the 50. The brown is the flood zone, and then I believe blue is wetland area.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I will say, in general, reviewing this, I found your figures very difficult to understand. Tossing us a legend or something to interpret and following the color schemes that we've got would be a lot easier.
Well, why don't we just follow the schemes that the town that we have?
That's what I mean. In any case, we don't have a number tonight. We still need to do a site walk. It sounded like there might have been some misunderstanding. So Weston and Sampson is clear. It is I think the commission's expectation that there'll be a site walk with the commission as well as with the agent.
Yes.
Okay.
So for the site walk, so that we can be clear, what are the things that we would like to see? Areas of impact and the wetlands flags, staking of perhaps the building. What else would the commissioners like?
You might want the gate valves. Is it the gate valves? Am I remembering right, up along Route 2?
The hydrants and access pits, maybe, and the gate valves?
Yeah, well, there's a couple up, in the line that crosses Beaver Brook. There's a couple, I don't know, offset pieces of work.
I mean, I'd also like to see the limit of disturbance during the work, because it's really hard to conceptualize here the extent of impacts when all we're really looking at is like a directional drilling pit, looking at a road. The extent of temporary disturbance is much larger than what's being shown here in terms of the finished footprint. Maybe it's in here somewhere. Certainly I have some studying to do in this, but if it's not, we certainly would want to see that on a figure, and I'd really like to understand that in the field.
So a lot of the temporary impacts are also along the roadway because when we place erosion controls in a buffer, that's considered impact. So we calculated that as well, but it's all going to be occurring within the roadway. So that's why some of the numbers seem pretty high for the buffer zones.
But would the commission like maybe, or I'm sure Weston, Sampson, and Corey can show us exactly probably where the center line of the road is, and then a couple ideas of where the limits of work are going to be or the erosion controls will be. And then particularly down by the well site, where the work is next to whatever that wetland flag is.
So you're talking on the site walk, you'd like to be able to kind of visualize that out there in the field?
Correct.
Yes,
that's right.
Okay.
Yeah, I think for me, it might be speedier if I can go out with somebody ahead of time and look at the wetland flags and just kind of focus on that while you worry about the staking. But we can figure out how the timing works. Because I'm guessing this site walk with the commission could be like maybe an hour or something. It's
okay.
How soon do you think you would be able to have that work done so that we can go ahead and schedule a site walk now that we have the commissioners here?
If you're asking to stake the entire access road and a couple other areas, we're probably going to need at least a week, if not more.
That still gives us an opportunity to do the site walk ahead of the next meeting, which I think is probably in everyone's interest here.
Yeah.
So I'd rather set a date for the meeting.
That might not be done though, because you're meeting on the 28th. And if they're saying over a week, and then you've got Thanksgiving. So we'd have to have it done really Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for the site walk of next week.
Let's schedule a site. I mean, let's see if people could do it, but maybe Monday the 27th.
you're also gonna have to start kind of early, I think.
Oh yeah, sure. That's right.
Yeah, that's the other issue.
Yeah, it'll be pretty dark by 4:30.
Yeah, that's right.
So it might be best that once everything is, so I concur that Amy should go out ahead of time. And then perhaps once everything is staked and ready to go, because we have commissioners that aren't here with this hearing tonight, we can try and coordinate 1 or 2 dates, because some people are available during the day versus the latter part of the day. It may have to be a weekend. Okay. All right, we have to keep going.
There are some raised hands too.
Oh, and we do, yep. So I see Thomas Cahill that you've raised your hand. If we can go ahead and take some questions from the audience, that would be great.
Yes, just quickly. My wife and I live at the corner of, it sounded like Whitcomb and Porter, and at some juncture you're going to tear up Whitcomb Avenue, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and that's just right down the middle of the street.
I mean, yeah, it'll be significant construction. It'll be both replacement of the existing water main plus installation of a new raw water main. So it'll be, the entire street essentially.
Do you have a guesstimation? I apologize. This is the wife. Do you have a guesstimation of when that is projected to happen with respect to the project timeline?
Only very roughly. Tara, what are we thinking construction might start next summer, like later in the summer next year?
Yeah, the earliest construction would be next summer, and anticipating completion is roughly about a year to a year and a half. And that's not going to be, they're not going to be out in front of your house for a year and a half, but that's the whole entire project area, which includes pretty significant work with the well site. So usually
understood. Yeah, no, we understand from the project plans that this is where that kind of raw water main is going to be constructed. So. Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, this was great. So it oriented us to kind of where things are moving and how it affects where we live and everything else. So very good. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate you taking the question.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else outside of the commissioners that might have a question that's here in waiting room? I do not see any other hands up.
One more just popped.
Where?
Cheryl.
Okay, Cheryl. Yep. If you could introduce yourself, Cheryl, your name and where you reside, that would be great.
Sure. Cheryl Hardy Faraci. I'm on Moore Lane, 8 Moore Lane.
Okay.
I just have my question is sort of along the lines of the Cahills there. The impact on the bridge over Route 2, is there going to be like a major detour for that once the line goes across?
So I'll answer that one. We're not going to be going across the bridge. We're actually going to be crossing similar to what was constructed about 20 years ago, open cut across the Route 2 itself. So there will be some Route 2 impacts, but not along the Wicklow area.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl. Any other questions? So
Sir,
this,
if that's it for questions, I did have one thing, and I probably should have made this clear from the outset. I actually work for the town of Boxborough as a client dealing with PFAS issues in a different part of Boxborough. I haven't yet checked in with council, but I wanted to make sure the commission is aware that Boxborough is my client, and in some ways this tangentially relates to Boxborough. I don't think there's a conflict here, but I do want to check in with council and make sure that they're comfortable with me proceeding.
okay, thank you. So this hearing will be continued to November 28th, and then as we discussed, we'll just follow up. Amy will go on site, and then we'll see when we can get together for a site walk. Sound good?
Sounds good.
Everybody's time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep. Have a
a good
nice
night.
evening. It's now 8:48, and I'd like to open up the 8:30 continued public hearing, abbreviated notice of resource area delineation, 95 Taylor, Mass DEP 204-0987. Who's here to speak to that?
I think Aiden is on his way in. There he is.
Yes, hi everyone. My name is Aiden Schlottman. I'm the representative for 95 Taylor here. And then I think Mark Gallagher is going to be on as well.
Yes, good evening. I am here as well. Thank you.
Okay.
I will share my screen. I will show the updated presentation plan that we've given you guys here. Hopefully everyone can see this. Since last time, we did have the peer review and we did have the site walk, and then our survey team was able to go out and find all the flags that were needed. And we found them. Starting at the top here, Riverfront Flag 9. It goes all the way around, essentially to a tree line that we discussed on the site walk and on the peer review. And then it goes to just about where wetland flag 9 is, and then it attaches to the AT&T pole that is out in the marsh a bit, and then connects back to the original line that we had. Other than that, this new line does project 2 new updated buffer zones, this 200-foot riverfront area, which is in red and dashed here, and then the 100-foot, which is this red and dashed as well. But since last time, very minor things. I'm happy to hear any comments. Amy, were you able to make a decision on the line there? Or?
Yeah, what I would recommend to the commission, because the line in was at the sort of the southwest corner, looks kind of funny the way it shoots out to the AT&T pole, and obviously we never put on our waders and got out there. I would suggest stopping at the approved riverfront area, mean annual high water line at wetland, what was it, 9A or whatever it was?
Yeah, 9. Maybe
Stow it out 5 feet, 'cause that would not make any difference to how the arc, the 200-foot riverfront arc is made. And then also means that in the future, if an abutter on the other side needs to determine their riverfront area, they're going to have to rely on their own information, not this information.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yep.
I would like to say our our only qualm with this is for, in terms of the notice of intent, calculating exactly how much riverfront area we have on site. Basically, we go from the riverfront flag on, and if it stops here, it's tough to kind of make a decision of how much riverfront area exactly we have on site, because there's kind of just a blank spot.
All right, I get you. Yeah.
Where there would be.
Could we compromise there and allow you to proceed with let's call it an assumed riverfront area as far as you need to for the purposes of calculation, but use a different line type there so it's clear that we're assuming something rather than directly measuring it?
I would say, as long as in terms of our final calculations for the notice of intent itself, as if we're still able to use this area and beyond as riverfront area, I'm fine if we say it's assumed, as long as when the notice of intent does get filed, that stays as the case, and we can still use that area.
Aiden, help me understand why you need anything past the AT&T pole.
Yeah, so in terms of disturbance in the riverfront area, you're allowed to disturb a certain percentage of total riverfront area within the site. So typically when you calculate riverfront area, it's from the riverfront flaggings to the 200-foot buffer. If there's nothing here in this area and this is still on the property, we would say it's to here on, and this area here we necessarily would not be able to consider riverfront. So we just want to make sure that we're maximizing all areas, because if there's riverfront present, we want to make sure that we're getting the full percentage of what's on the area.
I misunderstood. Okay, so your property lines, all of that riverfront area is within your property lines as currently shown.
Yeah, just about, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to completely retract what I said then. I don't think we should just assume that. I mean, we see that the original riverfront area approach was maybe not the best way of identifying riverfront area. And so an area-based calculation using the old alignment, which we know had some problems, is going to significantly understate the amount of riverfront area and consequently the extent of impacts that are allowable. So I think we got to find a way through that.
We did confirm that basically from flag 9A backwards, the riverfront area was not in what you think of as the river channel itself, but that the area that's cut off, basically, if you will, by going out to the AT&T pool, was more shrubby than aquatic, and that's why Octo and Dave Crossman and we came up with that being the point where you jump back to the strictly river-looking river.
Okay, so so
it's not a surveyed line, but it was a considered line.
Okay, so the line we have from is this north is up. So from the southern edge of this to the AT&T pole, as it sinuously follows the center line of Beaver Brook, the town's peer reviewer has looked at that and generally agrees. Maybe we're off by a couple feet here and there, but generally agrees with that alignment?
Yes.
Okay.
See what the second shot. So it comes back to Brad Park, and then you see Ramsey down on the ice right there. His head's turned.
Then I am okay with using that for calculation purposes. I do think we should still note that it's approximate in some way, so that it doesn't get carried over into places where it shouldn't.
History, let's focus back in on
For who knows
a
what reason.
lot of things, but the second
Okay.
play, not so much.
7 minutes. Once it got to 5-0, it got a little sloppy again.
You're okay with that, Aiden?
Yeah, that's fine. As long as it's something that's set in stone in terms of our calculations.
Right. But I think he said that.
Yeah, then that's more than fine.
Okay.
Okay, so at this point, then we are in agreement, or at least we've found something we can agree on in terms of what's shown here. This aligns with what the town's peer reviewer looked at and lined things up, and the applicant's good with it. So we've got a resource area delineation, right?
Right. That's essentially what we agreed to when we were out in the field, with the exception of the AT&T pullback, which we now agree with, and so we should be able to bring closure to this.
I'm ready to give it a green light.
Aiden, can you take down the plan?
Yep.
Okay. Commissioners, anyone else have any other questions?
I'll move to approve the abbreviated notice of resource area delineation for 95 Taylor Street, Mass DEP file number 2040987.
The second?
No, motion's been moved and seconded. We'll take a roll call vote. Michael Livingston,
Michael Livingston, aye.
Chase Gerbig,
Chase Gerbig, aye.
Sarah Seward,
Seward, aye.
Carl Nedberg,
Carl Mulberg, aye.
and Kyle Maxfield, aye. It's unanimous.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Great. Have a great evening. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
We have 2 minutes. We're going to go back to.
Before we go back, obviously we can't have a discussion on Foster Street reconstruction because it has been continued, but an administrative item. Amy, you conveyed our comments to Fuss and O'Neill.
Yes, and that's why they asked for the continuance. They had time to address all that.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Well, it wasn't even, it was into December, right? they wanted significant time. They're not coming in on the 28th, right?
I didn't write it down on my copy of it, but
I thought I read somewhere that it was.
it would either be November 28th or December 5th. I forget.
Yeah, it says they're continued without discussion to December 5th.
Yeah.
I would like to make sure that all the commissioners have an opportunity, if they have not had a chance to see that site, that they may have to have a second walkthrough, or Amy, even if you want to do that, or one of us can do that as well, especially down by Grimes.
Let me know.
Okay. Okay, 9 o'clock. Let's go ahead. Continued public hearing, notice of intent, Hartwell Avenue, Lot 1, Mass DEP 204-0993, and then followed by that will be 0992. Okay, Dan, all yours.
All right, great. Thank you very much. We had met here at your last meeting on October 17th, and we described the project that's happening out there. It's the development of both lots 1 and lot 2. There are some minor disturbances just with some fill and grading in the buffer zone, about 900 square feet on lot 1 and a little over 1,400 square feet on lot 2. When we left the meeting, I was charged with a few things to take care of, the first of which was to provide Amy with a contact person at Natural Heritage, which we did, and I'll let her elaborate if there was anything of substance in that conversation. We also talked about adding some signage to the plans, whereby we would be supplementing what Natural Heritage had us do, and that is they wanted boulders to be placed along the route of the restriction line. Those boulders have already been placed out there. Amy has seen those, and she had made suggestions of where the signs might also supplement that line, being placed roughly halfway in between each of the boulders. Also on the plan, there was a detail that was modeled after another site in Littleton that has similar signage. The third thing, we were all waiting for the DEP file number, which did finally come in last week. And there was one comment, the same comment on both lots, and that was in regard to the recharge area, the infiltration structure that was placed as a result of the NPDES permit. And they were asking for more testing to be directly in those areas. And I responded to that with a letter to the commission about the consistency of the soil types out there. We've done a vast number of test holes out there and perk tests. They all showed coarse sand and gravel, and we had 2-minute per inch perk tests all over the place. And I just didn't see the sense in going out to dig more random holes when we already know what the answers are. And then lastly, it was asked of us to provide to you, when it was ready, the deed restriction language, which we actually just got from the attorney this afternoon. There was some comments that the Dutchers would like to amend in that document that have to do with the beach area. And if they're on here, I can't quite see if they're here, but either Todd or Ashley, don't know if you want to speak up to that. I guess I don't see them here.
Oh, Ashley has her hand raised.
I just brought her in.
Okay.
You're muted, Ashley.
Ashley, if you could unmute.
Sorry.
There you go.
So the pond that is on lots 1 and 2 that's been there since the Hartwells created it, has a little beach area. And we would just want language in the deed restriction to state that that can be used for lot 2 only, and maintained. So they could go swim in it if they wanted to, or ice skate or whatever. It's still there. It's existing. Just how it is how we would want it to stay.
And Ashley, correct me if I'm wrong, but you had looked at the document itself and felt that it might be best to put that language in with the same paragraph as the trails. The trails were highlighted in the document, and the restriction allows routine maintenance of the trails so that they stay open. And we just wanted to include the beach in that as well.
Yeah. There's a little paragraph about existing trails and maintaining them, and I just felt that that was the best spot to put that in.
And I will also iterate, we're all using the word beach. It's not really.
Yeah, it's
beach.
like a
kind of a grassy sand.
Yeah.
Ashley, quick question on the language about the trails. Is the owner forced to maintain them, or is it just the will that you want them to be allowed to keep the trails open?
I believe it's just to keep them open. It doesn't say anything about being forced to maintain them. I don't think that natural heritage.
It's a reserved right. You're allowed to.
Yeah.
You don't have to.
Be clear that if someone wants to just let it go back to nature, they can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you.
I would like to run with this idea that the beach thing for a second. I'd be a little bit concerned if there's language that could be misinterpreted to allow things like beach nourishment or some other activity there. In its current state, that's fine, but to essentially open the door to, let's say, redevelop that into a more accessible beach than it currently is, I'm not sure I would be comfortable with that.
Well, we could change the language to say that it would stay in its current state and not to be like added to, or you know what I mean?
I think the main thing here, Chase, is number one, if someone were to want to do something there, they are required to come before this commission. But also, Ashley made a decent point about the fact that these people on lot 2 there would want that to use that area simply to access it for swimming or skating in the wintertime.
No, I understood. And to the extent that what we envision right now is that it stays essentially as it is in perpetuity with reasonable maintenance, I'm good with that concept. What I don't want to do is open the door with language that could be interpreted to be something much more extensive than that.
Understood.
And,
Thank you.
and I suppose one of the thing I would add to that, although in a perfect world people would come before us, we currently have open enforcement orders for people who have not done that. So it is easily mistaken.
Agreed.
So with the language just coming in kind of at the last minute, do the commissioners, would they like to read the language as written? Or are we approving this tonight as is?
Well, there's no final language, right? Like there's still back and forth that needs to be done on that language. Do I understand that correctly?
Yeah. Go ahead, Ashley.
So you go. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that the attorney most likely would want to phrase the inclusion of that beach area into the document itself, and then it would be submitted back to Natural Heritage for their blessing, more or less. But as it relates to everything else, this format of the restriction basically followed exactly what Natural Heritage wanted us to include.
Correct.
I'm concerned with going forward without having Natural Heritage's blessing on the language.
And just to reiterate, that's just lot 2 that has the beach, or lot 1?
Just lot 2.
So the language, so we're talking about lot 1 right now. So the language should be fine as written for 1?
Yeah, essentially.
So Chase, could we?
Hang on. What is essentially?
Yeah, we don't have it's not one document for each lot currently. It's just the same document.
Right. So there is okay.
So we could use that first. The draft that we sent you today could just be for lot 1. Yes. And then we could edit a second version for lot 2.
So is it a draft or is it?
No, this is the version.
Okay.
Yeah, this was the template we were provided from Natural Heritage, and our attorney just put our information into it. Yeah.
So Natural Heritage doesn't have to see this again for lot 1, but perhaps for lot 2.
They need it for the entire property.
Because of the beach.
No, because of the endangered species.
Right, I understand.
The rare species.
I understand that.
So wetlands are not, this is going to be overall 5, 6 lots, whatever it is.
Correct.
Commissioners, what would you like to do?
And I will also, I did talk to Natural Heritage to make sure they didn't have a problem with any segmentation of approving lots 1 and 2, but not necessarily 5, which they since moved anyway, and they were fine with that. And generally speaking, the order conditions would rely on the Natural Heritage permit, which has been issued, and this is basically one of the requirements of the Natural Heritage permit.
So Natural Heritage is on board with everything?
I think they need to do that final tweaking of this beach area. But otherwise, yes. They got their boulders, the boulders are already put in.
And Chase, if I could address your concern, I'd like to see both of these lots get wrapped up tonight. The issue about the language within the restriction really does not come into play with what we are specifically asking the commission about, and that is the work within the buffer zone, because we are not asking for work on the beach area. We're simply asking for work within the buffer zone that I described earlier with some fill and grading. I see you pondering it.
You make a fair point. I think we tend not to like to get out. It's one thing when we are working with the Board of Health, and sometimes we do something first, sometimes they do something first. It is generally not what I would consider our favorite position to be out in front of Natural Heritage. That said, the scope of what you're asking for in terms of permitted work within the resource or within the buffer zone is not particularly extensive.
And to use your words of being out in front of natural heritage, I'll remind you, natural heritage is 18 months ahead of you. So this is the 11th hour here, and the final document for natural heritage to settle on, and they're the ones that provided the template for this document. We just filled in the blanks with names, addresses, lot areas, things like that.
And Amy, you spoke to them?
About the segmentation piece of it, yes. But I will also say, I mean, the Conservation Commission, forget natural heritage, if you're looking at a site and you see that there's work going up next to the pond, you might pull a condition on that work. And it could be a condition as much as just saying that the beach recreation area next to the pond is not to be expanded, but can be mowed, something to that effect.
Yeah, I think you're going where I'm thinking, Amy, where we don't typically condition what you're not allowed to do. That's obvious, but in this case, if the interest is in closing this, and it seems like everyone agrees that the beach could be maintained in its current condition, I'd be okay going forward as long as we condition that and make it clear that that's an expectation. I'm not sure I love it, but I can get my head around it.
We're fine with that on our end.
Any other comments or concerns? Do we have a motion for lot 1?
I'll move to close the public hearing and issue an order of conditions for Hartwell Ave, Lot 1, Mass DEP file number 2040993.
Second.
All right, the motion is moved and seconded. We'll do a roll call vote. Michael Livingston.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Chase Gerbig.
Chase Gerbig, aye.
Sarah Seward.
Sarah Seward, aye.
Carl Melberg.
Carl Melberg, aye.
And Kyle Maxfield, aye. Passes unanimously. For lot 1.
For lot 1. Here's a really you thought natural heritage was arcane. It's technically not 9:15 when we're supposed to open the lot 2. What's your opinion here, Sarah?
Well, we can wait 1 minute. It's
Wait,
9:14.
30 seconds.
We will wait 1 minute.
Chase, I love your attention to detail.
Yeah, I think you're lying, Dan, but
And lot 2 will have a condition.
Yes. Yep. That is correct. Did we get through everything on our end for administrative discussions, Amy?
Except for the budget and priority stuff. Yeah, exactly.
We have to do that tonight?
Yeah,
I
we
thought
do
that
it
was
like
very
2 weeks
important.
ago.
Yeah.
we're kind of behind the 8 ball already. So
I have 9:15.
okay.
All right. I'd like to open a notice of continued public hearing, notice of intent, Hartwell Ave, Lot 2, Mass DEP 204-0992.
Very good.
Any discussion on Lot 2? You know that we have a beach.
Yeah. I'll move that we close the public hearing and issue an order of conditions that includes a condition related to maintaining the beach in its current condition for Hartwell Ave, Lot 2, Mass DEP file number 2040992.
Second.
All right, motion has been made and seconded. We'll do a roll call vote. Michael Livingston.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Chase Gerbig.
Chase Gerbig, aye.
Sarah Seward.
Seward, aye.
Carl Melberg. You're muted,
Carl.
He's muted.
Yeah.
All right. Carry on, Kyle.
All right.
Carry on.
Kyle Maxfield.
He may have frozen again.
Kyle Maxfield, aye. So we have what's that, 4 and a question mark with Carl.
Call it an abstention. And
Yeah, that works. 4-0 with 1 abstention. Motion passes.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck. So we do have a few minutes before the 9:30. Let's go to our budget and priorities, Amy.
Okay, so, can you hear me? I can't see myself anymore. Yes.
Yes. Yep.
So the budget, why don't I throw it up on the screen? Which I think you've seen. So two things. Actually, let me step back even a little further. I don't know, you might all know, Tim is now full-time in the town of Littleton. Between conservation, planning, land use, hours, and 8 hours over at the water department. So he's full-time. But that is only good through June 30th. So what I would like to do is for the next fiscal year is, get him up to full-time with conservation. We may or may not negotiate a little bit with the water department if they still want him for 8 hours, because that could work in the short term also. So that is an increase of about $33,000 for the increase in that salary. So we'll be asking for that increase. And then for the rest of the budget, there's basically two buckets, if you will, two kind of big buckets. One is regular expenses, which includes some office supplies and the conservation land maintenance fund. And then there's another bucket, which is entirely the wetland, and that's where the bylaw, or that's where the DEP fees go into. The top one here, this all has to do with town meeting. This is a revolving fund. It's kind of under the wire almost. So the wetland fund increased just a little bit because of mileage stuff. I stick all the mileage in the wetlands piece of it, and that's going to go up. The regular expenses went up mostly because of Cloverdale, because this assumes no grant money. So this would get us through fiscal year 25. And I'm hoping that this could almost zero out, but I wanted to put it in. So it's an increase from 18.7 in the current year to 22.6. And part of the reason it didn't go up as much is because this tree removal has come back out again. We'd had a $2,500 allowance that a highway is just doing when we have trees down. So a salary increase of 33,000 and an expense increase of about 4,000.
Amy, is there enough money in here for training? It's essentially, if we're going to bring Tim on full time, which I 100% think we do, and think it's morally questionable that we ever did anything other than that. I want to make sure he's got the right technical tools to do the job effectively. If that means that you gotta shake the tree for another $1,000 for a training activity or something like that, I think I would go to bat for that very easily. If you think there's a useful way to spend more training money, if it's just throwaway money, then that's fine.
Yeah, this money down here should cover that. That's all in the wetland revolving fund side of things. Because any training he does is almost entirely wetland related. Occasionally there might be an open space thing. So that is all accounted for down in there.
Okay.
And he's plugging away at some of the courses as well. I think when I had asked that.
He got pre-certified before he started.
Yep.
He took all the courses.
Do we really only bring in $5,000 in fees a year?
No, we bring in more than that. So the revolving fund is building. I forget how much is in there, maybe 20,000. It can only be spent on wetlands related stuff. It cannot be used for open space. If we ever wanted to buy a truck, we could buy it out of there. For a while, a little bit, maybe $5,000 was coming out in addition for salaries. But then Cheryl or someone said it just wasn't worth it, and I wasn't going to argue. So that is building a bit.
that makes more sense.
Yeah. And if we ever needed to hire a consultant or something that we couldn't charge off on somebody, can come out of that pile.
Okay.
So that's that. I think, I don't know, either a consensus or a vote or something that all sounds reasonable.
Sarah, my 2 cents here is this is a bit of an ask, and I would rather have a formal vote from Concom.
I agree. Yep. If someone wants to make a motion, I'd rather be forthright with that.
I move to let's see, recommend the conservation budget fiscal year 25 to the select board
As presented.
as presented.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. For a roll call vote. Michael Livingston,
Michael Livingston, aye.
Chase Gerbig,
Chase Gerbeck, aye.
Sarah Seward,
Sarah Seward, aye.
Carl Melberg,
Carl Melberg, aye.
and Kyle Maxfield, aye. It passes unanimously.
One element of this that may be important is making sure that we have someone at the appropriate FinCom meetings or Saturday budgeting session to make sure they understand what we're asking for and why it's important. Is it the commission's opinion that that's worthwhile to do?
Can there be a narrative that's when Amy sends forth this budget so that there is kind of like the little narrative that goes with that?
There is a little narrative that goes with it. Yeah. And it personally would be great if someone could come to whenever we do the budget mayhem. That hasn't been scheduled yet.
You weren't supposed to say mayhem. I'm trying to
get
accessible.
I'm super excited to go now, Amy. Yeah.
You have no idea how interesting it is, actually. Because you get to hear everybody make their plea.
When do you think it's going to be?
Yes.
I forget. They've been doing it in the past on Saturdays, but they give very specific times. So it's not like you have to sit there the whole time and don't know when you're going to get on there. But then I think they also have been doing some evening ones last year, if I remember correctly.
What is their
last year I wasn't asking for anything extra, so I didn't even have to go.
When do they have to have all of their meetings done by?
Not sure.
I mean, really what they're driving at is the distant goal, right, is Springtown meeting. But the way it backs up, it's actually surprising. It's got to essentially be fully baked by January-ish.
All right, well, Amy,
hence the budget meetings in December and so on.
Yeah. Just let us know. Okay, we have 6 minutes.
Well, in that case,
can we come back to the trees? Kyle, you want to give us a tree policy, protection policy update?
I still also have the priorities to go through too.
Yeah, I think we got to hit on those.
Do that.
Okay. Yep. Go ahead. Sorry.
You want to do that instead, or?
No, we'll do the priorities. Yep.
Kyle might not be ready.
I'm not.
So, blah, blah, blah. These are the priorities which are pretty much unchanged from the last year or two. I don't know if you all had a chance to look at these or not. And I also didn't know if, oh, that's a priority of what I do. Sorry. These are the goals.
Is there mention of grants in there?
The priority is, these priorities are pretty much what we do.
Okay.
The goals, I think, is where we probably want that. So goal 1 was the staffing.
Yeah.
If I could be so bold. And then these other 5 goals actually haven't changed a lot. But I didn't know if you wanted to, particularly after Webster, if there's any point in trying to hit any of this a little harder, or any different priorities you'd want to see. Let's see ours.
Well, I think we talk about funding for land acquisition as well. So I would say that staying on top of seeking or knowledge of where future funding can come from.
Yep. And a part of this, and I don't know if that's well, I don't know if it necessarily goes with land acquisition, is possibly the whole parcel prioritization identification task that we've been trying to get done and haven't been able to get across the finish line. That was, we basically went through every town-owned property. And that's when I realized, for instance, that Mary Shepherd actually isn't even listed under Conservation Commission. And all these goofy little parcels in Long Lake. And should they be sold to the abutter? Should they be conservation? Should they go to Parks and Rec? So there's that whole effort just hasn't quite gotten across the finish line, which means taking it to the select board.
And following up on Webster, I got an inquiry from the finance committee and the select board asking for our opinion on how to prioritize open space parcels. And I'll tell you, I think part of what they're not going to like, but we might need to just be really clear about, is the most important characteristic is it's available. And if there's a disagreement on how to deal with that, so be it. But I do think they, particularly following Webster, would really like to understand how we look at properties that are worth acquiring. And it's probably worthwhile to put something down on paper to sort of memorialize our thought processes.
So it could be as much as being a goal, working with the FinCom and or the select board or whoever to discuss, I don't know, policies and procedures for land acquisition. I don't know.
I would add to that policies, procedures, and establishing, let's say, funding mechanisms, including but not limited to CPC funds, or maybe beyond CPC funds for land acquisitions.
I think beyond, yeah.
But is that kind of funding mechanisms within the town? Leave the grants from the state and stuff as a separate piece.
You could always mention it twice, Amy.
Yeah.
Is the commission okay with me taking some information that I got from Amy, I think a version that Andrew had been working on historically, and start to work something into a form that we can bat around as a conservation commission before we recommend something to FinCom and the select board for their consideration? I'd like to put something in front of everyone.
I think that would be great, because everyone's going to come from a different source mentally of what they think might be important.
And we can talk until we turn blue in the face. At the end of the day, having something, even if we don't all agree with it right off the bat, written on paper is, I think, going to advance this a lot faster.
Yeah, agreed.
And I did, when Andrew sent that around, I dug through my files and I found my comments on that. So I'll send that over to you too, Chase.
Okay, thank you. I would like to, I will firmly commit to having something put together for whatever our shorter of our 2 meetings coming up is, because I think we will want to spend some time wrangling.
That's always the next meeting.
It's just like the properties we want. What can we buy?
I'm hoping December 5th might be a little bit on the light side because it's so fast. No.
It is 9:30, so I'd like to go ahead and open the continued public hearing notice of intent 18 Porter. We are still without a mass DEP number. Lot R 12-9-A, replacement of an existing deck. Anyone here to speak to that?
We are without a project proponent.
Okay. So we had left that they have to submit more plans, plantings, and such. We did. Chase and I met out there. Others have been out there. Amy's been out there. So, all right.
I've seen it from afar.
Yep.
That's right. And that was it. Yeah.
Okay. And I don't see There's no one in attendees that would do that. Okay.
Huh.
Is there anything else? If there is not, I would entertain a motion to close this hearing.
Well, George, I just got two, I think, quick things. The hazard mitigation plan is in the works, and they're going to have their initial presentation at planning board Thursday at 6. I'm guessing it might not be worth your time, but you might want to comment on it later. I'm trying to get them. They will be including stuff on climate change, invasive species, and maybe trees also. So those are my comments to them. So save yourself a night. And actually, the other one on Webster, the trust is trying to find a way to fund this potentially, and they've asked if I'd be willing to put together the land and water conservation fund application, which is due January. So I don't know if it's worth that lift or not.
How many hours do you think it will take for you to compile and develop that?
I'm gonna guess 20 or 30 hours. It's a lot. A lot of it's been done for the land grant, but this is a whole different thing. And it's going to be the town.
Different priorities, different arguments, right?
What is the competition like for those LWCF grants?
They're all tough.
What's that?
They're all very competitive. And I'm not sure how high this property would rate, because it's not sitting on an aquifer. It doesn't have a place you can canoe. It's, all sorts of weird stuff that you just don't get points for. But it depends who you're up against. Sometimes a 70% rating will get you money. Sometimes it won't.
Well, I guess my argument, we won't stand any chance unless we stick an application in.
Right. And I think it is a good faith effort. I just caution the amount of time.
I also don't want to be in a position that we get the grant and then say, oh, never mind, because the town's not going to buy it. The grant would only be for the appraised price is 630, and only 50% of that.
So why would the Websters be interested in this?
Well, it sounds like it's LCT that's interested.
Yeah,
but why would they accept?
Because they're looking for more sources than just
LCT's trying to raise the money to go on top of the grant.
They're looking for a number of different sources.
I also think that there is at least some small inkling of hope that this could show up as an override in the spring. I think that's low probability, but it's not zero probability. And to that extent, having the grant application put together and submitted wouldn't be a bad thing. That said, Amy, what does that 20 to 30 hours come at the expense of? Like, do you have... Yeah, besides your sanity, we give that away every meeting.
If we look at just 2 of the large projects that are sitting on our plate right now, each one of those, water driven, train driven, there's a lot going on right now. And that's certainly not things that Tim's going to be able to help with.
Let me take a look at the grant application again and see how much different information there is. Let me start there, because we got time. The long lead item is usually the appraisal, and the appraisal's done. I don't think there's any other really long lead out of my control. Oh, I got to get letters from Mass Historical, and those ones have come in. I'll have to check that, but most of the timeline is in our control, not someone else's control. Put it that way.
So I don't think that we've actually given you an answer.
Why don't I look at it a little bit more, and I can come back on the 28th, because I'm not going to work on this thing between now and then anyway, other than
So did you say this is something the Littleton Conservation Trust is interested in?
they're interested in trying to find a way to make it happen.
Can they assist in drafting the grant?
I'm not sure who they have working on it, who they would have to work on it.
Made it sound like they wanted you to do that. They reached out to you specifically for that portion.
And I think frankly, I'm going to be a lot faster than they are. There's other things. Oh God, there's other things like, environmental justice and, outreach, which I usually rely on SVT for. And I'm not sure if they'd be willing to put time in for that. And, certainly getting letters of support, the trust can whip those all up. Let me come up with a checklist of what has to be done.
So, yeah, all right, yeah. Maybe split some of the duties. I don't know. I'm just trying to take some of the burden off you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to if you come back on the 28th, Amy, and say, hey, I need commissioners to do these things, as long as that's a net benefit for you, not just more cats to herd.
Oh, watch it, Chase. I'm going to make you do the graphics after what you came up with for Webster. Okay. And that was all I had.
I had one, not to draw this out any further, open space and recreation plan. Amy, do you know where that stands? Like, oh, okay, maybe we won't.
We're getting there. The last meeting or two had to be canceled because there wasn't a quorum.
Okay.
So I think some of the energy is slipping out. The consultant is working on the text, which we've been pushing him for. We have section 2 and 3, which is sort of the background, the process, and the regional context type things. So they're cranking ahead with those and coming up with again, the not parcel prioritization, but just labeling the open space parcels and what they are.
Okay.
So it is getting there. And EEA, who was a DCR, whoever it is, said, I think it would have been due November 1st. And they said, you just have to be in the process. We're not going to have a heart attack if you're a bit late on it. So we have a little bit of time, but not a lot. There's still a lot to go through to get it finished.
Okay. Thanks for the update.
If any of you want to see what they've got so far, I'm happy to send it on, but I don't think it's ready for you to spend time on.
Anybody have anything else?
Okay. Then I'll move that we adjourn the Conservation Commission meeting on November 14th, 2023.
At 9:39 p.m. Do we have a second?
9:39.
Second. All right. Motion was made and seconded. Roll call vote. Michael Livingston.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Chase Gerwig.
Chase Gerwig, aye.
Sarah Seward.
Sarah Seward, aye.
Carl Melberg.
I'm over, guy.
And Kyle Maxwell, aye. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.